kids, that's why we couldn't drink.
How do Nepalese names work? Your name is Sugam Baska something.
Banskota.
Baskoda.
Banskota.
Bangskoda.
Yeah, much better. So
Yes.
our name works in a similar way. We have first name and last name. There are most of the people who do have middle name. Not many anymore, I think. Like most of the middle name also are with the people who is usually originated in the like the rural areas. In a sense, those people who are still live in those areas, they still have the middle names. And if you come to the more city-centric living area, you do have more of a first name and last name. But as I said, like it's not exact cut and dry rule, because there are like really rich royal lineage family who has like long name with like with 5 or 6 extra words added to it to show their royal lineage that goes back.
Sort of the son of this famous guy.
Something like that.
Yeah, I see, I see.
So there are like people who are like something like, something Rana. Rana by itself means like it comes from a royal lineage, and they add like a Jabara, that means Janga Bahadur Rana again. And Janga Bahadur Rana is like, he was like the first, in a sense, like a dictator that ruled over Nepal. So they have like a first name, last name, and first name, middle name, last name of a person who already died, but he was such a supreme power at that time.
Oh, they incorporate his whole name into part of their
name.
Wow.
So there's also that. So I can't just say that, oh, city people, first name, last name, but because the city people are the rich people, and they could have that long ass name as well.
Yeah.
It's smaller, to the point thing, first name, last name, that's it.
Cool.
But there are people who has at least middle name, or at least they have some long ass names as well.
Understand.
Simple.
Where is Nepal in the world, and how do you think about its place in the world? So just for context, when I grew up, I thought America was the center of the world, because I was a little kid, I didn't know anything else. I thought there's America, that's the main thing, and then there's the other places, right?
Yep.
And then as I met more people and traveled more, I understand, everyone has their own lives, blah, 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 like America's not so special. And then I started to study politics and history, and actually America's super special, so I kind of went full circle, I have a deeper understanding of why America actually is kind of special. We're the world's imperial force,
Superpower.
Exactly. So how do you think about, where's Nepal, how do you think about it in terms of the world? And especially as related to India?
Okay, so that's the thing. Like if you go with geographic thing, we always go back, you know about India, you know about China. I ask people that, and they're like, oh yeah, I know, I've heard of India, I have heard of China. So like, yeah, Nepal is literally between them, because the 3 sides of our border is with India. One side of the border is with China. India is like around 22 times bigger than us. China is around, I think, like 65 or 60 something times bigger than us.
Land area, yes.
In the land area,
Yep,
right?
yep.
That big. We have a phrase called in Nepali that translates something like a fruit stuck in between 2 boulders, something like that. Like yam is like about yam, the
potato,
the potato thing. So there's like a tarul in between Thulo Dhunga, like in Nepali, it's basically like 2 huge boulders, and in between you have like a small yam stuck in between. That's what like Nepali phrase is, and we learn about that phrase like really early on. So we do have our own superior thing that we feel about the Mount Everest, about like, really good in nature. We have tallest mountain. We talk about Gautam Buddha, like Buddhism, because he was born in Nepal, stuff like that. But
Buddha was born in Nepal?
yeah,
I didn't know.
That's like the huge thing. Oh wow, yeah.
The thing is, he's a real like historical figure, so that's not like a matter of controversy.
But that's the thing, though.
Or is it?
It is a matter of controversy with India, though, because what happened is he was born technically in the land of Nepal, right? But he got his enlightenment in a place of India. So India claims as Buddha of India. We claim because he was born in Nepal and he came back to Nepal.
India makes a good point.
Something like that. And you will go online, you will see lots of people just going, Buddha was born in Nepal. Anywhere it claims that, India, Buddhism came from, you will see lots of comments. All the people angry about, like, no, Buddha, Nepal.
Well, and then even
Nepal.
within Buddhism, there's so many differences in sects, but also countries. So like Thai Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, they're like very different.
Could be,
And there's maybe fights about the proper way to be Buddhist. You
Could
know?
be. But here's the thing though, we do not fight about the proper ways or the sex or anything like that, or at least I have not seen that. Only people are curious about is that nobody should be claiming Buddha, except for Nepal, because that's like one of our big pride kind of thing. But here's the thing, we all grew up with that. That was like our superior thing, nature thing, Mount Everest, Buddha, and like, you know, our water resources is pretty good, not utilized properly. We have like lots of like different terrain, and in a like really small area we have like hilly and flatlands and mountain kind of thing. But we're also told about how we are so dependent on our border countries, India or China, especially India though, because 3 borders, land borders. China has more of like a mountainous side, so it's really hard to get to them. So it's more like with India. And we have been told from early on, like from childhood, whenever we are taught in the class about geography and stuff like that, we always like, oh yeah, we get this thing because of help of India. This thing comes from through the channel of Indian, in a sense, like, you know, it comes to
resources,
India.
supplies, things
supplies
like
stuff, like, because we are landlocked country. So even anything it gets imported, it comes actually to the port of India first, and from there it travels through trucks and stuff like that, and that comes to Nepal in a sense, right? So it is like, if for some reason India gets angry, or India says like, we are blocking the border for today, or like for a couple of months, we are literally stranded in a sense, because even if we want to get something in, it still has to come to India first and then come to us, right? And we had thought about this, not in this depth, obviously not, but from the childhood. And we kind of grew up with that kind of like inferiority complex, that, yeah, Nepal is a small country, we are pretty good with nature and stuff, but that's already given. With resources, that's already given. It's up to you, how do you take it. But in the context of how it survives in the whole world kind of scenario, we know from early on that India is like a big player in how we sustain ourselves. So, yep.
I think this must be the case. I don't know, but I imagine it must be, that must be a more common experience around the world than my experience.
Oh yeah.
Right, being like, okay, America's it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Because there's more people in non-superpower countries than there are in, what, India, China, US, Brazil, something
Yep,
like that,
yep.
so.
I think so as well. Like, I think even if you go to countries, or even continents like Africa, where like there's so many smaller countries interspersed around, right? And where there's not like a big player right next to each other, but there's still like a bigger power. Like, you go to South Africa, it's like, oh, Cape Cod, or like, you know, something like that, and you're like, okay, they're not dominating with the landmass or anything like that over the other countries, but even the other countries, like even the Niger or anything like that, they were like, oh yeah, if you want interesting things or you want infrastructure, you need to go to that specific place, right? Something like that. So I think their experience would be something similar to how we or I grew up.
Yep.
And
I think you're right.
Yep. And as I said, like, China is superpower, there are like so many people. India is superpower, there are so many people. So their experience also is going to like loss of people's experience over there. But there are so many non-superpower countries, smaller countries, that they just, you know, they were born there and they come to other places and then they realize that, oh, my experience is different from others. And I think, yeah, my kind of experience would be more common.
I would think so.
Yep.
To obviously different degrees, to different places,
absolutely.
different people, but something more like that.
Yep.
Awesome. How many languages can you speak?
Well, I usually go with like, I know 3 languages and 2 more dialects, so like, you know, 5 in a sense. So, but the thing is, like, if we go by just like national thing, I just go with like 3, I guess, because I know language of Nepal, I know basically like a language of India. People do not get angry. I know Hindi is not national language, but I know
it kind of is.
Yeah, Hindi is like unofficial kind of thing. But yeah, I know Hindi
for India, right? It's like English, Hindi, mostly, like this.
Yeah, but the thing, like, India doesn't have official language, so anybody claims like, oh, I know language of India. It doesn't mean Hindi.
Neither does America. America doesn't technically have
exactly language. Right. So I know English as well. That's we are communicating.
Can you say a phrase in each language? Maybe pick something simple so you can say the same phrase in every language. Like,
okay,
I love rice or something. Whatever. Oh. I don't know. Sorry if I'm being racist. I love rice too. I got some on the stove right now. It's delicious. Soak it first, wash it first, eat your rice.
That's so funny.
You can say
No,
curry
so like,
instead. Would that be
no,
less
I
racist?
don't have to say something like, like the food. I could just say like, how are you in English,
Fine,
right? Simple
fine,
as
fine,
that.
fine,
The
fine.
simplest one. How are you in English is like, ke cha hal khabar in Nepali. That's it. And in Hindi, there is like so many different level of like you're talking to a person, of your label are talking to a person of. It's similar in Nepal as well. The kaise hal khabar is something they're talking to a friend, and in Hindi you could go with kaise ho in simple as that. That just means how are you.
More informal.
Informal one, and you could even go like aap kaise ho. Aap literally means like you, but in like respected way kind of thing. So yep, that's through 3 other languages. I do know 2 other dialects, but it has been so many years, it has started to get really rusty. I could listen to somebody, I could understand what they're saying.
Can't speak it anymore.
Yeah, but
You
if
can
I
only
try
speak
to,
English.
yeah, if I try to like say those things, I may butcher it really bad.
Hey, guess what? I won't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like you wouldn't know, but it's in
You
myself,
know.
like I'm not supposed to like say that in like that inflection or that word adding something like that. So yeah, 3 languages and somewhat of 2 dialects.
Cool,
So,
cool.
like
I'll take 3. You know, it's 2 more than me, so it's pretty good. So we know each other. We're coworkers.
Yep.
We do coding. You're an intermediate developer in terms of the 3 levels at work, but breaking down all programmers by skill into 3 levels is really doesn't show the whole picture.
No,
I've
not at all.
I just started coding, so if junior is this, I'm kind of here. Maybe here now. I don't know.
So like if we go by that, that's the thing. Like if we go by intermediate is this,
I'm
literally
right
on
next
like
to you. I'm so close to your skill. I'm junior intermediate. I'm 1 level down. It's almost the same.
Exactly, right. So like Son is intermediate in a
Yes.
sense. Cody is intermediate. I could never match their level of coding skill, I think, because they have been in the place and they know the code so
For
much.
sure, for our specific job or
Job
specific
as well.
code base.
But
They
so
just
many,
have, yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh, you have already worked with this, right? How do I do this? Because I was going to Son so many times for Golang because he had done that 1 year ago. With GitHub and stuff, I think like Cody is really good, like his merging and stuff like that. But I haven't talked to him much. But yep, I was a junior for a while. So
Sure.
that's the thing. Like for some reason, ended up over here on intermediate. The thing was, I was surprised as well because I thought I was applying for junior level.
You applied for junior, and they're like, "This guy's pretty good. We'll give him intermediate."
Or I applied to 2, like whatever the openings was,
Yeah.
and I got selected for
Maybe they just
whichever
check the wrong box. Like,
could be.
how did you get into coding? How did you find a love of coding? Do you like coding? Do you hate it? What's the story with you in coding?
Coding thing is, I used to love coding during my high school. There was a time where I was not into coding, where everybody is in Nepal. You get separated into either you are going to be a doctor or are you going to be engineer. It's simple as that. So at one point I was studying for being a doctor or at least going to the medical field. And I realized that I don't have enough brain capacity to tackle the institutional problems like,
It's
so
cool
many.
you had that self-awareness.
Yeah, many people end up having that once they do that pre-test kind
Oh,
of thing.
sure.
And
Maybe
they're
that's the point of the test is to tell people
like,
no.
you're not good enough. Just stick with something else, something like that, right? And there are like a couple of seats, like let's say 100,000 people apply and 55 get selected, something like that, right? That's for like if you want to study medical, like get into medical without paying anything, you get a scholarship. If you want to pay $40,000, anybody.
Oh, you can just go.
You can just go to any private college.
If you're rich
kind of
enough.
thing. You're rich enough, you can always study something. And I was like, I'm not going to get in that route kind of thing. So once I realized that I'm not getting into medical field, I'm not passionate about anything at all.
You
So-
weren't even super interested in that?
in the medical field?
Yeah.
No, medical field was like, I was somewhat, it's just that I didn't have that drive.
Sure.
I didn't have that, oh, I'm going to be a doctor.
Right.
It just was about, oh, everybody says I need to be a doctor, so I should be studying this.
Right.
And I didn't get into engineering field because I had to study 1 extra class of mathematics. So I was like, no, I'm not doing engineering because I need to study 1 extra class of math. I'm not doing that. I don't like math, so I'm going to go stick with this doctor field. And at the end, I realized that I'm not even going to do that. So once I realized that I'm going to come to USA, and everybody was like, okay, so what are you going to apply for? And I looked into the mass of the people who are applying from Nepal, and they're like, oh, everybody's going into computer science. Computer science is a field where you study. You get pretty decent job. You have like a solid path to follow. If you can follow through, you get good money, in a sense. I'm like, sounds good for me, and I just followed through that. That's it. I didn't have any kind of passion for this. I'm not going to say that I didn't love coding before. There was a point I actually loved coding. I did something called QBasic, which is like really, really old school at that time. But for us, that was our latest thing at that time for us in our school. But
how old are you for reference?
I'm technically 26.
What are you non-technically?
27? Like I don't know, like the you have to like calculate the years. 1997, so 26.
You don't know how old you are?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. That's true.
Exactly.
That's true. That's
matter,
true.
like,
you know you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm in like late 20s. Yes. Yeah. So I'm in late 20s. I still start going to gym. So there's that. Yeah. So we used to do QBasic. I used to really love QBasic, and there's a time I was not doing that. I was focusing on doing the medical thing. Didn't end up doing that. It ended up coming to the USA, and I picked computer science because that's what everybody was picking, and I just like, okay, if this is what helps me to get my visa, I'm going to do that.
So for you, really, coding was less like a deep love from your belly of the binary, and more it was a practical choice. Mostly.
Oh, it was more practical about how much money I can make.
Right. And was part of it also just the consideration? The money obviously, but also just the being able to get into the U.S. was that also kind of the consideration? That
here's the thing though. So
if you say you're an artist, it's probably
So
harder to get in.
If you try to pick like any kind of like a liberal art kind of thing, or if you, I have a friend.
I want to come to America and teach English. I love English. Like, okay, bro.
My friend, one of my friends, she chose a major called interior design, I think.
Yep.
And we were shocked because she got a visa, and we were like, how did you get a visa?
Oh, like that's a fake study.
Yeah,
you're just painting walls.
Like, you are not even an engineer.
Yeah.
We were scandalized when somebody picked physics or math. We're like, subject?
Oh.
Not even a stream of a subject. Like,
not like
engineer.
a professional field, right?
Yeah. Just physics and you got a visa? Just math and you got a visa kind of thing. So it was more like my safe way to go to the visa officer and tell them, oh yeah, I have learned about this thing, and I have been doing, because in the in the interview time, visa officer asks you like, why are you going to apply for this particular field? And the easier way to connect is that, in my high school, we used to do this kind of coding thing. In my +2 or the later year of the high school, I was learning this mathematics thing, and I was also like coding on my side. They don't need to know.
So as far as the visa officer is concerned, your passion is coding.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You love coding.
Yeah,
it's all you think about every day.
I've been born to code, like something like that. Yeah. But even then, I couldn't convince the visa officer in the first try. I had to do the second interview. First I was like, yeah, you're not coming back to Nepal, and so he just rejected me. A month later, I got another guy as my visa interviewer, and he was like, yeah, cool, stamp, here you go, pay the money and get out of here, kind of thing. So there's that. So yeah, I didn't have any kind of passion. It was more about practicality, what I can use to come to the USA. And once I came here, I could have maybe chosen to go to something else, but then I realized that if I go to something else, I had to think about my OPT, how long I can stay after my studies. And computer science falls under engineering, falls under STEM, and that gives me 3 years of staying time after finishing my studies.
For your visa in America, for your life after that, for potentially even longer, depending on how things work out, and you wanted just more time
to figure things out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the job, the salary. I'm looking up now the per capita GDP in Nepal because I want to get it right because, we have many, many viewers out there, like my mom. That's all. For my mom, I want to get this number right, so she, so it's according to, Google, $1,208.22 US dollar, the per capita GDP of Nepal, meaning you just take the total production of the country divided by the population. And so it's not exactly the salary, but it's a rough guess of something like that. Like if somebody made $1,200 in
What's
Nepal.
for the USA?
I should know that. I think it's like 50, 60,000 perhaps.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it is. Oh, 70. Ooh, way more than I thought. 70,000.
That's pretty good.
200. Yeah. So again, that's it's not the same as the average, but it's a good kind of a metric, right? It's a very exact kind of a metric.
In a sense.
Because the big, obviously, You could, so it's the average.
It's like a bell graph kind of thing. Like you could have like a middle section. They're going to be outliers on the.
Well, it is in a very technical sense the average.
Yeah.
In a technical sense.
Yeah.
But without the standard deviation, an average doesn't mean a whole lot, right? And so that's the big metric. In a lot of countries, you got to look at the per capita GDP, but also the sort of the rich-poor gap, right? Because like Brazil is an extreme example of this, where like it's a pretty rich country if you just look at it, but it's like only a very small amount of people and just tons of poor people, like so many poor people.
Yeah, and I think like that works in USA as well.
Yeah, but I think to a lower degree. Other countries are to a higher degree. I mean, of course, America has plenty of what you might call poor people, you know?
Yep.
You know, I mean, like they have awful lives because they don't have enough money, you know? But in a pure number sense, it's still way more than that. Like if you lived in America and you made 10 times Nepal's per capita GDP, right, which would be $12,000 US, you would be considered extremely poor.
Yeah,
like true. Very poor, like destitute, you know, like maybe homeless. Really, like you probably could not afford rent.
I completely understand. Yeah. So
here's the question: is like, what's that experience like being from a country with such a low GDP? Is that your life growing up? You know, the people around you. I mean, obviously, you're not the poorest of those people. You know, I assume because you're here. You know, but like, is that? Do you have like a sad relationship with that, or is it just how it is? Is it not a sad kind of poverty? And what's it like coming here, where you make a lot more than that? Presumably, I make $70,000. He makes more than me. I'm not going to say his salary, but it's more than $70,000. And so, yeah, even 70,000, you know, that's like 50 times, you know, the per capita GDP of Nepal. Yeah. So what's that experience like?
So growing up with my family, it's kind of like a really deep and personal kind of thing to tell about how, you know, I grew up and stuff like that. But
you don't have to say.
The thing is that we didn't grow up like in a rich or like middle class family. It was more of like the lower income family, but not in the extreme, but like in the middle section of the poor.
You had a house?
No, we rented.
Okay.
So yeah,
but you weren't on the street.
Yeah, so we rented and.
Are there homeless people in Nepal?
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
There are homeless people in Nepal, but we also lived at that time not in the main city. It was like slightly more of a rural area. In a like, you know, if you go with the capital as like the main center, it's like slightly so many kilometers away from that, and the living expenses were low. So it was like more of a paycheck to paycheck kind of livelihood, and I think like I just grew up with like that kind of mentality that we don't have actually excess money to spend on anything at all, and could be that led to like a more quick maturity of like, oh yeah, if we have money for something, we are going to spend on essentials, the things we need, and anything extra is just going to be slightly a save up for the future. Or if we really need to buy something, like a need versus want kind of thing, then it's going to be a need. Want is way later kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's something you can hope about.
Yeah, something you hope about. Yeah, maybe on your like birthday, or like, you know, your like it's like a Christmas, we have Dasai, and maybe you could get that T-shirt that you want or a pant that you want. You can buy that once a year, kind of like that, and you save up for the next year in a sense. So yeah, I grew up in a family like that. Slowly, as the time goes, our families moved to. Around my middle school, we moved to Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal, and the economic situation didn't actually change all the way. It was still the similar way. Expenses were higher. We were making more. My dad was making more, but my expenses were still higher. So it was still paycheck to paycheck. Right? Yeah. But still paycheck to paycheck. But we are in the capital city, right? So over the time, it was still the same story. Like I was going to school, my younger sister was going to school. I was still saving up money and stuff like that. I was doing personal tutoring by my high school.
When did you start? When did you make your first money by yourself?
In my high school when I started doing the personal tutoring. And I remember doing that because I wanted to buy a new mobile phone, like cell phone. And I did that for a couple of months. I was teaching 3 different people on a day. So my day used to be packed in a sense.
Because you had school also.
Oh, I had a school. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I had a school. And I saved that money during my high school to get my first cell phone. There was a point like where I could spend that amount that I saved up to either go to a school trip with my friends buy a mobile phone, and because I had been planning on that for like more than 1 year, I denounced the school trip. I'm like, I can't make it.
So you saved up for a year to buy a phone?
In a sense, yes.
For a long time.
Yeah. And like, I mean, it's personal tutoring, like you don't actually make that much.
That's true.
Like, you know,
especially
it's like, it's small,
school,
yeah. And I was actually doing like 2-3 people. At that time,
what
it was just
what
like
was the phone?
It was a company called Huawei.
Oh, Huawei, of course.
Yeah,
they're very
yeah.
famous. They're super famous.
They had released like a complete new phone at that time, like called Honor Ollie or something like that. And for that time, their price was like really good.
That's the big sell. They're super high quality and super cheap. Cheap, comparative to iPhone, super cheap.
Yeah, and at that time, it was like around $120 US if you compare that, like, you know, the conversion rate with that. So yeah, I saved around like $120 for that, and I got a phone, and that was like my first phone with my own salary in a sense.
Yeah.
So yep, there's that. So I grew up in a family where we valued the money that we make. We didn't splurge on random shit in a sense, like, you know, because we didn't have an option. It's like you have some money, you literally need to pay back to somebody, people we actually took a loan from, like, you know, stuff like that. And there was a long time where we were on a debt where we were not even able to pay back them. It was like our paycheck to paycheck was like, we need to pay out to this month's rent, buy the food, like, you know, and money goes out, and like, oh, the debt is still there. You still need to pay the interest on that. And
You're
stuff
not
like
thinking about T-shirts.
Exactly, we're not thinking about anything else, right? And we're not even thinking about need and want, because there is no point the need and want kind of comes into play. It's like all of the things are like
it's
required,
need it,
like
and then
need
we still
it,
have
like,
no money.
Exactly, you still don't have money. And that kind of started to change when I actually came over here. And I had like slightly a debt at that time, because when I came over here, that also required a lot of money. I had like lots of really, really good help from a family from Australia at a point. Sonia and Jem Slay, they were super friendly. They actually helped me in the beginning they actually gave me money. And they were like, no, you don't have to pay me back, kind of thing. And that was like a jump start for me. And that actually changed my life in a sense, because now I could come here, study, focus on what I need to do. And whenever I have like extra leftover, I can actually send it back home. And by the second or third year, I had actually paid off all the debts we had in the family. And it was just back to.
And that was you were working pretty normal jobs here. You said like in a mall, things like that. Like you weren't a engineer at the time, or you weren't you weren't coding at the time.
No.
And so these were normal jobs making pretty low salaries. Yeah. But even then, you lived on that money, and then you saved that money to pay back these debts, even on those low salaries. So this is something that.
But I think like this is the thing that because I grew up with that paycheck to paycheck kind of mentality, that when I came over here, when I saw what my friends would call the final freedom, because no more the parents are bugging you for random things. You actually have money to actually buy beers. You actually have money to actually smoke and go out with friends and like go to bars and stuff like that. Because my growing up phase was always about save and pay back kind of thing. When I came over here, when I actually had enough money, I'd be like, oh, I could pay that person back and get done with it. I could pay this person back and get done with it. I could pay that thing back. And so when that was done finally.
So you mean when you had no more debt?
Yes, when I had no more debt.
When was that?
That was, I think, around in third year of my college. So like 2-3 years back, I think, like in 2019, 2020, around that time. Yeah, and then it was the point of like, okay, I actually have a little bit extra money. What should I do? And then it was like, okay, I can send it back to my mom, and she can buy something else. And so yeah, a little bit of money was sent back home, and my mom bought a little bit of a jewelry. I sent money back to my girlfriend at the time, and she would put that money like fixed deposit, and we would take out money from the bank to use as a monthly expenses and stuff like that. So I actually had like a huge support from my girlfriend because she would support me financially whenever needed, and I would just pay her back slowly over the time. And that was like a huge thing, like because for somebody like who is overseas, my family is over there, and you know that each penny matters. If somebody else is at least helping you even for a couple of months with financially, it matters.
It's hurting them, like the
it means a lot. And here's the thing, like growing up in Nepal is that if you can't make enough money in Nepal, your only option is either to go to Gulf countries. What we call Gulf countries is either you go to Middle Eastern countries, you go to Dubai, Qatar. So my dad was in Dubai for many years, actually. He left during my high school. And that was like, he left for high school and I started tutoring because I knew that my dad is actually going over the seas, leaving his family over here.
Yeah.
At least
so
I need to do
I
something.
gotta do something.
I gotta do something, right?
Yeah,
So that was the thing, like he was sending money for, that was the point, like he was sending money that could cover at least the monthly expenses, and I was at least making a little bit of extra pocket money that I could save to get something else. So yeah, growing up with that, coming over here, my view has changed a bit, but probably because it was at least 15, 16 years of that kind of paycheck to paycheck kind of mentality. I still feel kind of bad whenever I try to spend money on myself. My mind still goes, oh, am I really going to spend this much money on me? Because I could have saved this money and maybe done something for my family.
So here's an example. On Fridays, we as coworkers, we all go out to eat, right? We go to some restaurant, and I don't normally like to go out to eat because it's expensive. I mean, the food can be really good, but I can make better food for much cheaper at home.
Yeah.
But I don't miss the money. If I spend $15 on lunch, I'm like, okay, I don't think about it. It's fine. It's once a week. But then you think damn, $15. What does that mean in Nepal? That could be several days of work for someone.
Someone, yes. But the thing, over the time, Kathmandu has become so expensive now that when I went back to Nepal in 2019, June, July time, it ended up being more expensive for a day to be in Kathmandu than to be in the USA.
Oh, for a hotel or something?
For a hotel, there are new bars and stuff. So here's the thing. Either people are going to Middle Eastern countries to put their day-to-day labor job, right? Physical labor job. They're doing
construction
and stuff like
houses,
that. Working in the desert to send money back to the families, right? Remittance. That's the huge chunk of our GDP in Nepal.
I think at one point it was about 1/3 of the GDP was overseas Nepalese sending money back to Nepal.
Absolutely. And there was just 2 weeks back, there was a trend going on, #no remittance to Nepal kind of thing because of...
a protest or something?
There was a new rule that whenever you try to get a new phone back to Nepal, whenever you're coming back to Nepal, they would charge 18% tax. And they were like, we send you money already. And you are still trying to charge a phone that we carry, where's our our
seems unjust.
Sweat and blood money, where the hell is that kind of thing, So that thing aside, Kathmandu has become either people from rural or a poverty-stricken family either go to Middle Eastern countries, or the children actually come to abroad.
How about, do people also go to China, India? I believe?
Usually they actually do. China is really famous for their medical, if you want to become a doctor. Many people actually go to China for doctor.
My first Nepalese friend, I met in China. She was in medical school.
Exactly. So if you are going to China, it's most likely that you are trying to be a doctor. If you are going to India, there's a high chance you are at least in some kind of technical field. It could be IT, for in the computer science field. It could be for engineering some kind. My friend was in dairy engineering or something related milk and kind of thing, but really technicalized field kind of. If you are in India, that's for it. Or you will be coming to USA or Australia. That's the huge hub. And once you are here, you know that you need to actually support yourself and you need to survive yourself. And if you make enough money, you send it back. So it has gone to a point that so many money is coming out from outside. And people, the capitalistic views are going in such a way that, they actually have money. They don't have money, but they have so much money coming in. Everything price has start going up.
Is part of that tourism or not really? Is it all of the people with money because they're overseas end up in Kathmandu?
Yeah, that's more of it, not the
tourism.
Not the tourism, because the tourist hub is more. Kathmandu has at that point, not right now, but the only working international airport. So in a sense, all the tourists have to come to Kathmandu in a sense.
So it could be also just any money coming into the country is coming through Kathmandu.
Kathmandu, right? Yeah. But the thing most of the tourists, they do not spend time in Kathmandu. Kathmandu doesn't have that much to
people go there for, I guess, the mountains mostly.
That's it. So you will be in Kathmandu for let's say 2 days.
Yeah.
That you'll at least see the things that Kathmandu has to offer, and then at least you'll be staying in a hotel or something, right? Anywhere else, you go to Pokhara, that's the scenic place. You go to base camp and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's away from Kathmandu. Those places are expensive. Completely understandable.
But that's tourist expensive.
Tourist expensive, right?
Yeah.
I have been to Pokhara, and one candy that costs 70 cents in Kathmandu is like around $2 in like a Pokhara.
I see.
And because like that's just the tourist destination,
Tourist
that's
prices,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah. I remember I paid him and I was waiting for the change back and he's like, it's not enough money. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What?
What?
Yeah.
Like what? Like yes, he's like, like some kind of like $2 or something. Like no, it's just 70 cents. Like conversion of that. I'm like, no, it's $2. Like, are you kidding me? Like that's the price.
Yeah.
I pay that money, and it's understandable because it's a tourist hub.
Sure.
But for Kathmandu to be that expensive, even so we have something similar to KFC in Nepal. They're not KFC, but they're on like something fried chicken.
I really appreciate how you convert everything Nepalese into American English for me, like all the units and the references and everything.
It's easier to like.
It is. I can understand better.
Yeah, it costs 75 rupees, and they're like 200. It's
Yes,
like
yes,
this goes
yes.
like what? Like,
Yes,
70
you're right.
cents,
You're right.
$2
You're
is like
right.
easier.
You're right.
So even like small restaurants, like something similar to KFC kind of thing, but with a like a restaurant vibe.
Yeah.
The price has gone up. Even any other kind of restaurant, the price has gone up. I took my family for like an out dinner and movies, and I was talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, so should we have like $50? Should that be enough for like today? I'm like, what, $50? No, like you are going to need at least like $150 today.
Oh,
we are going to
damn.
at least
Just you're not used to. You've been gone too long.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I was just gone for 2 years. Like when the price went up, like we are going out for dinner, we are going for movies, we are going to take taxi to over there and over back, and it's $150 should cover it.
Yeah,
Like we already have. It was not about like I didn't have money. I already had that in the ATM, like in my bank.
Yeah.
It's just like I was surprised that our disparity of the level of thinking of amount was so different.
And that's over like less than 10 years, right? That things have changed that much.
That was like in 5 years or
Oh,
4
damn.
years
Okay,
kind of
okay,
thing.
okay.
I remember my friend went back to Nepal last 1.5 years ago, and he went to club, really like a bar kind of thing. That's becoming really huge nowadays. And
What's it called?
LOD is
Shout out to LOD, Club LOD.
Lord of Drinks.
Nice.
Right?
Cool,
so
cool,
he
cool.
went there and with his friends, and they ended up drinking worth of $800
US?
US dollar.
What?
I'm converting that into US dollar.
That's wild. But their prices, are they like US prices, like $8 for a drink or something?
I don't know. I've never been there.
It must be. If it's like the club, it must be.
I mean,
because there's some people in
But just
Nepal that are
think
super
about,
rich,
have
right?
you ever gone to a club with 3 people, 4 people, and spent $800?
I've probably, if I went way too crazy, I probably spent 100.
Yeah, but 800
I've done that
Doesn't
like
make
twice.
doesn't make sense. It's just like, I was like, what?
Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, he's like, what? And he go like, yeah, I paid $800, like, in Nepali currency. And like, and the guy next to me, the other guy, he tells me like, the other guy in the bar, he like took out like bundles of like,
So
currency,
it sounds like to me that this place is the hot, cool place for Kathmandu. There's enough rich people, especially maybe people with like industry money, like daddy's money from mines or something, that they just go show off.
And that's
throw
how
their
it
money
got
away.
cool, because all the cool kids were actually posting pictures and stuff. And
Yeah.
LOD has like a way of like they post pictures of with the tag of
Of
LOD,
course,
LOD,
of
LOD,
course,
and
of
they're
course.
like, oh
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, this is the wave clubs. They're scams. They're all scams. They're
Yeah,
not that much
makes
fun.
sense. But that's the thing though, that almost 10 years ago, you wouldn't think about going over there and spending that much of money.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh yeah, we should go there.
Like if you spend $100, it'd be like, oh, you're balling. Like, what
Yeah.
are you doing? Like, treating everyone in the bar to drink.
Exactly. That would have been like many years back. Now $100 is like, what?
Things
we didn't even
change.
have enough to drink today.
Things change. All right, we got to get off the conversation of money. My mom's getting bored
Okay.
listening to us talk about money. Coding.
Sorry about that.
So let's talk about Australia
Okay.
and America, because you've been to these two places. You've been to Australia, you've been to America, right? You spent time in Australia. Tell me about that experience. And you've been 3 places in America, right? You've been here in Dayton, Ohio. You've been in Illinois, and you've been in Texas to live, right? Travel some other places, right?
Yeah.
And how long did you spend in Australia?
5 months.
5 months, but it was a pretty diverse 5 months.
Oh yeah,
staying
I
a lot of famous
spent,
places.
it was mostly in Sydney, like one city, but at least like 5 different places of Sydney as well. So my high school had some kind of a program where they do student exchange kind of thing. So Australian, around 10, 12 people every year come to visit Nepal. And the high school I grew up, studied in, I grew up with, had like around at least like 12, 15 different schools all over Nepal. So they host those 10, 12 Australian kids, the whole group, all over the Nepal, wherever they are going. In exchange for that, one person from Nepal from that high school can go to Sydney and work in that high school.
Wait, is the trade one Nepalese kid for 10
students kind of thing?
Australian kids?
Yeah,
is
but
it
the,
1
but
to
the
10
thing like,
trade?
so that's the thing like, so the
That's
10,
not fair.
but here's the point, the 10, 12 kids come here for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
One student goes over there for 6 months.
Okay.
It was that was the same year that
So
was
similar
earthquake.
man hours maybe,
Yeah.
but I
So
see.
and there was like an earthquake happened on the same year. So mine got delayed and shortened by 1 month.
I see.
So like it
So
was
5.
just like 5 months.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be just 3 months, but for some reason it is still stuck with 5
How
months.
did you get selected to be the one lucky kid? You're like
So every year they just come.
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
So there is like a kind of like a competition kind of thing every year that goes for a long month. A competition, as I say, is like you have to do like a presentation in front of the whole school. You have to like be nominated in a sense. You do interview with the teacher and the principal, like the headmaster and everybody. They ask you cross question. So you become. Do you have something called head boy, head girl, or
Sure.
class
Well,
principal or
class
something
president.
like,
We
class
do
president or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it is a role of like school president.
Right. It's kind of a popularity thing. You got to do some networking, put up some
Okay.
posters.
So
talk
it's
to
like
some
a
people.
slightly different though. It is based on how good you are with the students as well, and
Yeah.
how well
People
you
have to
are.
like you because
Yeah.
it's a voting thing.
Yeah, ours is not. Here's the thing
Oh.
though. It's more about how the teachers perceive you,
Okay.
and my role was mostly take the complaints of the students and convey that to the teachers.
Oh, I see.
So I was like the intermediary in so that was our head boy, head girl kind of thing. And if you are a head boy, that which I got to be after like 1 month of like the whole trial and stuff like that, you got a chance to go there. I'm not sure if it still exists anymore because there was a time that certain visa rules changed in Australia and it was no longer viable.
Is it fair to say that if you didn't go through that 1 month, you would not be sitting here right now?
In a sense, yes.
Potentially.
Potentially, because the thing is, I went to Australia, I got to live with 5 different families, and one of the families ended up being the Slays family, Sonia and James, and we got like really close, got really friendly, and I told them about my family and my economic situation of like how I want to pursue further education, and I'm not sure if I'm even able to do that. And they were like, if you're going to apply to Australia, if you're going to apply to USA, just tell us, we'll just help you whatever you want for the jump start or anything along the way. And it just feels like a fate in a sense, because if I hadn't like put myself for the nomination, where I literally myself put there and like, yeah, I'm going to nominate myself for the head boy thing, I wouldn't have gone through that whole thing. I wouldn't have gone to Australia. I wouldn't have met them. And that wouldn't have circled back to coming me to the US.
And it probably helps you get a visa to come here, right? Having
In a
been
sense,
abroad.
yes. There was not in the first interview, but the second interview, the guy was like,
you failed
"Oh,
the first interview, right?
Yeah, the second interview, the guy was like, "Oh, you went to Australia?" Like, yeah. And why did you come back? And I remember I said, because my visa expired. So my visa
Of
supposed
course,
to
of
expire
course.
on 12th. I came back on 11th. Like, oh yeah, good. And maybe that helped because like, oh, he has been to other country. He returns back by the visa date.
Yeah,
and so maybe we should give it a try. So that helped, I guess. I'm not sure. But yep. Australia was pretty cool, but here's the thing though, I was in Sydney. Sydney is like a pretty popular hub. It is really, really...
Very international, right?
Yes, and it is really good infrastructurally, I guess, because it could be also because I stayed in like really nice places, I guess.
Do you know what the population of Nepal is?
3 million?
I don't, by the way. That sounds way too low.
30 million.
I would guess 30.
Yeah, 30 million, sorry, not 3
Yeah,
million.
because it sounds...
Yeah, 3 crore. I
Let's
guess,
see.
Yeah.
Jamie, can you pull that up? Sorry, we don't have a Jamie. Yep, you're quite right, quite right.
30 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you know the population of Australia?
I don't know actually.
Less,
Okay,
23 million.
cool.
Huge. It must be one of the least densely populated countries out there.
Oh, yeah,
it's
because-
enormous.
The thing is that
23
because
million people, not that many.
Southern Australia is completely, in a sense, barren. You have like so many sheep over there.
Did you see kangaroos?
Oh, yeah, I saw kangaroo.
Did you
Yeah.
eat a kangaroo?
I don't think so. No, I didn't eat kangaroo. Yeah.
Don't eat the kangaroos.
I didn't do that. But Sydney was really good. So when I actually came to Texas, this place felt so bleak.
You were in Dallas, Houston?
Yeah, I was in Dallas.
Dallas,
So
okay.
when I came to Dallas, Dallas looked so bleak compared to what I had seen in
How do you
Sydney.
mean? Like the infrastructure, the buildings?
Oh, yeah, buildings, everything. Australia is, I mean, Sydney is so nice. They're like good buildings. Like downtown is
kind of
amazing.
like beautiful, like well designed,
And, like,
interesting,
you know,
glass,
you have
clean.
beaches, right? And you
Yeah.
have like at least like rivers and stuff.
It's like a nice place.
It's really nice place, and you come to Dallas, and all you see is like a couple of big buildings in like a downtown, and everything is like this bleak.
It's kind of a lot of just concrete, right?
Yes.
Like it
Exactly.
reminds you. It's not the same, but it reminds you a little bit of like Soviet, like old Russian buildings, like just
in a sense, yes.
kind of
yes.
like no one thought about this. They just poured the concrete, and there it is.
Something like that. Over the time, I started to love Dallas. Once I actually saw Dallas at night time, you can see like some of the buildings like light up and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But it's still like when my friends were or other people in the like plane were like, oh, Dallas, like that's the plane we are going to, that's the place we are going to land, and like it looks really cool. I'm like, it looks okay. Like that's what my feeling. So when I came to Dallas first time, and my friends were like, "How do you like Dallas? It feels so American, right?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about?"
What did you have something in your head, an imagination for what America should be like?
Here's the thing. What I feel is that I felt what I was expecting when I went to California.
Oh.
So what I think is that I was expecting that, the high rises and the city kind of vibe, because I had been watching so many movies and series and stuff like that. And
all movies are in LA.
LA, or you go with New York, Manhattan and stuff
yeah.
like. I've never been to New York, Manhattan, but I will be smitten, I think.
Sure,
smoked, I guess. Right?
You'd be smoked,
Oh,
yes.
I'll be smoked, I guess.
But it's something. It's big in media.
Yeah.
And also, LA is legitimately beautiful. I mean, like it's disgusting also, but there's a lot of nature, a lot of mountains.
Yeah.
The
if it's just
ocean,
going for a
obviously.
visiting thing, you are going to love it.
There's a lot of cool things.
Exactly,
There's a lot of beautiful shots you can take with the camera.
Exactly, that's the thing. So I think like this 5 months in Sydney was like, my mind was like, oh yeah, nice views, nice kind of thing.
Did you think in some way like, oh, that's what going abroad is like? It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, when I came to Sydney, that what felt like wow, this is good. Even the roads were like, oh wow, just the road lanes were like, oh, nobody actually drives in the middle, like nobody just overtakes.
So
and
organized, right?
So orderly,
Yeah.
so proper. Like you actually do the turn light thing, you signal and you change. Yeah, people are asshole even over here, I get that, but most of the people still follow the rules.
Yeah.
If you go back in Nepal, if you know how to drive in Nepal, you are like cool as cucumber over here because you know how to drive. Like you have gone through so many traffic crossing through the people.
But if you're Nepalese and you drive here like you drove in Nepal, you'd probably go to jail.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the thing is if you have been able to drive in Nepal with that lawlessness, in a sense, there's still proper
I've seen
order.
videos from India. They're famous. Everyone's seen those.
Exactly,
like,
right?
How do people not die here?
Think about that. If people from India can drive in that circumstance and they come
anything.
to over here, they can do
Easy,
right?
Yeah,
exactly, that
easy.
kind of thing. So I learned to drive over here. If I go back to Nepal, I'm not confident at all to even drive. There's a thing of manual and automatic, but even if I could drive manual, I wouldn't be able like oh no, that car is too close or that bike is too close.
You have to the car has to be kind of like an extension of your body. You have to feel it,
know
exactly where everything is, be able to see everywhere around the car and just
feel the chi running
feel the
around.
chi. You have to use the force if you're driving Nepal.
So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I think Sydney just made me fall in love with just the city kind of vibe. And I'm not saying Dallas was bad. It's just that for my, I had seen Sydney from there's a term I think like gold tinted glasses or something like that.
Oh yeah,
right?
rose colored.
Rose colored glasses, something like that.
Yeah.
And my mind was like, oh yeah, abroad, something similar all the time. You come over here in Dallas, you see that on a daytime, all the concrete and all the flatlands. At night, it looks really amazing. And but the daytime is the time like you land. I landed over in the daytime and like, this is concrete.
Architecture really does mean a lot for your experience if you live in the city.
I kind of actually found Chicago better with.
Well, Chicago is so beautiful.
Exactly, like when I went to Chicago last.
That's a different place.
In 2021 December, I thought like this is better than Dallas.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
It is so nice. So yeah,
that's for Taiwan. It's one of the major complaints of people. Like a lot of foreigners love the country for the culture, the people, the food, the prices, the job. Like everything's perfect. But it's just, I don't know why it is, just some accent of their history, I guess. Their buildings are similar. They're really ugly.
Okay.
It's a lot of just like drab concrete. Inside is beautiful. Inside someone's house can be gorgeous, you know,
So
but
it's like
outside,
more of like a functional kind of thing. Okay,
very
well,
exactly.
It is a building.
Exactly.
Do
It looks like
whatever inside.
people were like preparing for like an invasion or something. Like we just gotta put them up. Like
Yep,
it doesn't matter about anything else. We just have to have a hole for people
kind
to
of
go live
shelter.
in. You
Yep,
know
yep.
that's it. And it is like. So people tend to be happier if they live in nature in terms of just being like relaxed and calm. You see trees, birds all the time. But if you live in a city, all you have, your trees, your forests, your mountains are the buildings.
Yep.
And so like what are those buildings that you're looking at? And it does matter.
Yep.
Dayton is kind of a mix. Like the building we're in right now is amazing, you know. And there's some beautiful buildings downtown, but a lot of Dallas-like buildings, you know.
Yeah,
like,
in a sense, yes.
Who made
I found
this?
Cincinnati better and
Yeah,
Columbus
yeah.
slightly better in a sense. So there is that.
Can you do you think you could compare in any way, or have you thought about this, Australian people versus American people?
People-wise, I don't know. I think like for me it was like a similar kind of experience. In Australia, most of my daytime was working in a school with kids. Like I was like a kind of like a teacher's assistant kind of thing. So my free time would be on the weekends, and sometimes I'd go out somewhere with my host family, or sometimes it would be some of the new friends that I made at that time. And USA has more friendlier people in a sense. It may not be empathic. I think the people in the USA are more easily polite in the beginning, at least, compared to Australia. They are really easy to badmouth you in front of you, but really empathic towards you. Like if you need help.
Well, even as part of their culture is that they give each other shit a lot,
Yeah,
right?
I
It's
think-
it's almost like you know you're their friend if they're making fun of you.
yeah, it's like,
That's-
you know, like
that's
they
part of
call
their
you like a
culture.
cunt or something, like
Yeah.
if you're a friend, something. So
But only if you're a friend.
friend, right?
They feel comfortable.
So it just feels like so stereotypical in a sense, like what you have seen in the movies and TV and stuff like that. But that's what I found. Like I'm not saying that they're like, oh, you idiot or something like that. They were like, this guy again. Like how idiot can you be? Like you couldn't even do this or something like. They'll come and help you,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
They were like they would have that exasperated face, like, are you fucking idiot?
But for them,
kind of
I
thing.
think it makes things a little bit like less serious.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
they help you with anything that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I missed my train. Like, do you have any idea, like, what I'm gonna? And they'll just, like, look at you like, are you dumb? Look at the board over there. Like, you know, like, I remember, like, oh, it was just my first or second time.
Whereas an American person might help you out and never talk to you again.
Exactly,
Like,
that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
even like, oh, sweetie, you don't know. Like, you could, like, take a look over there and, like, you know, stuff like that. And later on, if you want to turn around, ask them, like, they're just gone. Like, they don't even want to talk
Well,
to you again.
I think your description is something a lot of people feel about Americans, which the way I put it is that we're great at making friends. You know, like if you go to like a bar and you just want to talk to someone, Americans are great to talk to. But in terms of being a friend, the acts of the things you do, we're horrible at it. You know, not universally. Obviously, there's a big country, a lot of people. But in terms of culture,
Yep.
this was something I remember asking a Chinese friend in learning the language. Asking, so you'll say like "I love you," and there's certain situations you say that in, and one that I would say it would be to my family. I'd say like mom or dad, like I love you. And I was like, do you do that? And he was like, no. I was like, why? You know, why not? And yeah, it was like a conversation we had. It's like, it would just be a weird thing to say to your family.
Yep. Same
Like they know you love them if you demonstrate in your life that you love them. Like that's what matters. Like the words it means nothing, you know? It's like, are you a good, loving person to them or are you not? It's just that simple.
Most of the time, if you go to Asian culture, it's mostly about, are you obeying them? If you follow the order that you were given, if you obey the rules that they have set, you are a loving child. Like you love the parents so much. The moment you go rebel in any way, that you are supposed to be home at 5 and you come at 5:30 and you rebel by 30 minutes, that's the moment that the love starts to crack.
Yeah.
That's for the most of the Asian families. It's
But even
generalized.
then, it is what you do.
Yeah.
It's not what you say.
Exactly. That's
the
thing.
things that you do.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, recently you have been not following our rules. What's going on? That kind of thing, like, you know. And if you just keep on following that, you're solid. You're like gold star kid.
That is, I'm halfway through a movie right now, Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm halfway through, but there's that is part of the theme of the movie is like, you know, Asian, because it's a guy who lives in America and his girlfriend, and they come back to Singapore. It's like the feelings of the parents and the family, you know, versus what they feel. And it's a real thing that, like, you know, in high school I had a lot of Asian friends, and the people, my classmates, I guess, would look at these Asian kids and they'd feel really bad for them because their parents were really strict. They had a bunch of rules. They weren't like allowed to do so many things, you know, like dating was out of the question. Like they couldn't, you know, if they wanted to go out, like their parents needed to know like the time, the people, phone numbers, you know, call ahead, like have everything controlled, you know? Whereas even in high school for me, when I wanted to go out, I'd just go out and I'd say like, hey mom, I'm going out. And she'd say, have a good time. And that would be it, you know, like, extreme opposites.
My parents were cool like that, in a sense. They were like, you are mature enough, you understand enough. If you are trying to go out with your friends, if you think they'll just ask me, like, where are you going? And what time you think you'll be coming back?
So quite chill for
me,
Nepalese.
For Nepalese, yes, way chill.
Yeah.
But I remember I had come back from Australia at that time, and my friends were like, okay, let's meet up. And we were planning on going on a small trip to like nearby hilly place. And my dad got a call. Actually, I got a call from my friend, and he was like, my dad wants to talk to your dad. And I had to like give my phone to my dad and like, yes, he's my friend's dad want to talk to you. And they just talk like what time me or like my group is going, where are we going, what time we're coming back and everything. And my dad was like, that was weird. Why did you like call him? Like, because that's what every other normal family does. You are the only not normal one over here, like, you know. And he was just surprised. He was really cool about these kind of things. He was like, you are old enough. I'm not going to like dictate everything. Like, no, that's what every other family does.
Yeah.
You know, and like, so that was just like one example that I have actually seen my friend after high school when we are supposed to like, you know, go to college and stuff. And not only that, when I actually went back in 2019 in my college years, in a sense, like, you know, when I'm doing my bachelor's, and some of my friends were like, oh yeah, I have told my parents that I'll be back by 7, and it's always already 6:30. We should be going home now. And
do you mean when you were in America?
Like when I went back to Nepal.
I see. Makes sense. But you're in college. You're older.
Yeah, like even there in college.
But they were at home.
Yeah.
And so you followed the parents' rules.
Exactly.
When you're in their house,
so that's the thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty normal. That's the thing. Like this is like really generalized, stereotypical kind of thing. But the thing is that what you generalize and stereotype is at least have some kind of
No, it's not. I don't even think we need to have that conversation. It's obviously true. There are obviously big cultural differences, and this is one. It's like people feel it, you know, as a child being raised and seeing your friends and different. But I'm not sure anymore. I used to think it was horrible, controlling your kids too much. I'm not sure I think that anymore. You know, because those Asian kids I have, that I was classmates with in high school, you know, every one of them is retired now. They're all my age. They've all been retired for like 3, 4, 5 years. And that's not an accident, you know. I think the parents, that's a huge part of it, you know. And so like, it seems like that works, you know.
In a sense, yes.
And I see like, I have 3 siblings, each have kids, and they're kind of the extremes of like, you know, kind of follow them, let them do whatever they want, or like only rules. And I kind of see the advantages to both, but also the disadvantages to both. You recently got married.
Yep.
How does being in America affect that situation of you getting married to someone, being married to someone, future wedding, and how do you think it might impact, coming from your parenting style, if you had kids, how do you think that might impact you? You know, being Nepalese, but an international Nepalese.
Our marriage, I just got married in December 29, so a couple of weeks back, I guess. And our marriage, like what we did over here, is way different than what would have happened if we were back in Nepal. We'd have a ceremony going, like, at least like the whole wedding ceremony would be one day, but the whole thing would take place a couple of days. The planning thing goes for at least weeks or months and stuff like that. Super expensive and stuff, and so many family members come in. There's a reception and stuff. This was more of like a court legal marriage kind of thing. We went to court, we got a judge and stuff. But coming to the main point of like raising the kids and stuff like that, I think the main difference would be I have seen, or though my parents were cool or chill with the things, it's not that that's how I was raised over the years. It was like how they were cool once I got older, right? It was like they were like, oh, you are old enough now, you should be able to make your own decisions.
So different from when you were 7.
Yes, exactly. Like if at the 7, almost every family had exactly the same kind of thing. You are going over there, you are going to do this, you are coming back at this exact point, and I had to follow the exact same rules, or you get the beatings, right? That kind of thing, like physical punishment, normal back home. So here's the thing. I think I have seen certain aspects of my parents' parenting that I have over the time seemed to find that, okay, that actually kind of works, where you have like iron fist for certain things, not everything, certain things where I think like, okay, you should at least have some kind of like a ground rule of certain things, like, okay, you need that for the kids to follow, because completely free, they might, it depends, I guess, but like, I've seen some of the aspects where I could use that, but I've also seen how the US culture is, or how I have found the freedom to be. And I think for my, if going forward, if we end up having kids, and our parenting way would be a mixture of both. And it would be trying to cherry pick all the good things from both cultures and try to mix that together in a way that actually helps the kid as well as us, because we'll still be, in a sense, like struggling to be a parent, but also trying to cherry pick the things that could be useful. So yeah, I think it's like kind of like a mixture of both things.
And I guess it's hard. There's a lot of correlations we have about what makes a good parent, right? But also being a parent is a classic example of like correlation versus causation, like books. Like the more books you have in your house, the more educated your kid will be. But that doesn't mean if the parents are not educated, you put books in the house, the kid's going to be the same. It's not they're just going to fall over the books or something, Yeah. Like so it's sort of like, I think for a lot of things being a parent, like, yeah, your choices do mean something, but what's much more important is who you are.
Yep.
Like and you can't just be, you can't be uneducated and say, I'm going to raise an educated child. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you'd have to work very hard, for that to happen.
That's true. There's the thing. My family, as I told earlier about the paycheck to paycheck thing, there was a point like I really wanted to improve my English at that point, and I had been asking for a dictionary for a while. And I remember my father actually saving money for a while to give me a dictionary on my birthday.
That's a good gift.
Like a gift me, right? And so my father had done like at least like halfway through completed bachelor's. He couldn't finish it because of his father, my grandfather's health problems, stuff like that. And my mom was like just like a high school kind of person, and we didn't have that much of like a book in the house kind of thing. But whenever I mentioned that I want to study books or something like that, my father would always encourage me like, go to library, go over there, read books, at least try to talk to that person to borrow the book from them. And he would always encourage me. And it ended up, I think, the point that you bring that about like what you as a person is what I have felt over the years with my parents is that they knew that they couldn't provide sometimes on certain things, but they would always be like, we encourage you to at least try to do this on your own whenever you have time. Do this and do not get discouraged without like even trying or something like that. So even if I wanted to try to read a book, why not just go to a library? They wouldn't say that, oh, I don't have money to buy your book, or we don't have book where I'm going to read.
They'd find a way.
They would be like, let's go to a library.
Yeah.
Do you know that you could like go over there, make a library card for like a whole year and try to read books over there and stuff like that? And it just saved the way. There was a point that whenever I got extra money, my mom would be like, go buy yourself a new pair of clothes or something like that. She would give me money, and I'd buy, instead of buying like a pair of clothes, like a shirt and a pant, I'd just maybe buy a pant and buy a book.
Oh,
there was a point like something like that because I wanted so much to read,
Yeah.
right? And I just wanted to improve English better and stuff like that. And then later on, I got to know about ebooks and stuff. So that's a completely different story.
Indeed, that is a different story. Indeed, that is. All right, I think I may be out of questions. Let's check. I may have some very, very important things here. Okay, now let's say the last question. So you've lived in, Nepal, obviously, and Australia. It seems like your biggest motivation for that was like, okay, it was an opportunity. Like it's just, wow, you could do it, and perhaps it would improve some things in the future. Definitely see some things, but not like a particular goal, like I'm gonna go there and
Oh yeah, there is a thing.
live with the kangaroos.
To
or
go
something.
to Australia, we actually ended up being on a debt because I had to take a loan. My mom had to actually take a loan so that we could apply for certain documents and my passport and stuff like that. So the whole intercultural thing, they did provide you with some kind of stipend for the application and stuff, but over the years, the process price has gone so up that it didn't no longer covered, and my mom had to take a loan of at least like $400 or something. That just sounds like just $400, but for us it's like
Again, 1/3 per capita GDP.
exactly
in Nepal.
right, exactly.
One third of a year for the average person in Nepal.
So just think about that. So I actually had to take a loan
Yeah.
to catch that opportunity.
Yeah.
I went there, I saved them. So whenever I was working in school, I was not unpaid. I was given like a really small amount of stipend, like $150 every 2 weeks. But as I said, every paycheck to paycheck kind of my livelihood, like the way I was grown up, I was like every 2 weeks, $150, not a single cent is going to be spent. I would save that money. I would save that money. And with that money, I bought my first laptop.
Damn.
And I had like a little bit of money left.
Chromebook?
No, it was like a Lenovo or something.
Nice.
And the thing was, it was cheaper to buy that laptop in USA, import that in Australia rather than to buy in Australia, because Australian like import tax and like Australian electronics are so expensive for, I think like for shipping or something like that. So I bought that. I had enough saved money that I could come back and pay off the loan. So the point
You
was,
mean for your mom, because she had taken out the loan?
yeah,
for
I'm
your
like
family,
it's
so-
kind of like when I say
yeah.
I, it's like my family.
Yeah.
Because like
Because you could feel that, right? Like
Yeah.
being in Australia, like this cost your family.
Yep.
And you weren't okay with that.
Yep.
Like you've got to make that even if you possibly can, if there's any
Yeah,
way.
exactly. There was a point I actually was considering if I could work outside illegally
Oh.
to like at least
Yeah.
recuperate some of the expenses that I have been spending or like that I ended up spending while coming to the USA. That I'm to the Australia. The thing was, it was such a huge opportunity for me to go and seize the moment kind of thing at that time.
Yeah.
That my mom encouraged me like, you should go. I'm going to
It,
take a loan.
it sounds like you have really good parents. Despite maybe not being so rich or like educated, I don't know what their place is, but it sounds like they're really good people.
Yeah, I think what they have is they know what they are or where they are in the whole
They sound
community.
smart.
And they are like, yeah, we are not rich enough, we are not, let's say, smart enough, but we know what needs to be done, and they do that. And that they have done that for me, and that has just paved the way for me to come over here, and that is at least going to pave a way for my sister to come over here, because
Yeah.
I'm going to be that link.
Yeah.
And it just circles back to my parents.
And whatever lessons, again, who they are has also transferred to you in large part, right? Not the same lives, but again, an overlap, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I again, one of the one of the Asian kids that I went to high school with, it told me one time, like, I think we were talking about kids or something. And she's like, yeah, my grandfather was a rice farmer, and my parents came to America, and she's retired, and she's like, I don't know what she said about herself. She'd go Ivy League or something, but she's like, my kids are gonna win a Nobel Prize. You know, it's like you go up and up and up and up, and I mean the difference between your parents' lives and your lives, or your life, is huge already in terms like financially and opportunities, things you can do, choices you can make, you know, and so. I think you and your kids could be quite the same, you know?
Could be. And that's the thing, though. I think about my parents, the gap that I have at least made, and I want to make sure that I at least have some kind of opportunity for my kids so that they can actually take this momentum and make it further.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from, like, whenever a person comes from really small country with like really low income, kind of like a GDP kind of a country, all they're trying to do is make it for themselves and for their future generation. That's all we are looking forward to. So
yeah, and I think that's why you have to think in terms of having strict rules.
Oh yeah.
It's like that culture is shaped by experience. It's not random.
Yep.
It's for a reason.
And here's the thing: if you look at any kind of like like Nepal doesn't have much of a like celebrity in USA, but Indians, like there's a guy called Hassan Minhaj. He talks about his parents, and like his parents were immigrants, and he became like a media person in a sense. Like, you know, he does like comedy, stand up, and stuff like that. He wouldn't have been able to do that if he had been the immigrant. His parents were the immigrant. They paved the way for him to be in a liberal art kind of thing.
Just to come over to another country, that's already an enormous step you're taking for your kids.
So that's the thing. So my kids, I'll probably guide them towards the practical field of go to a STEM field that is going to help you towards your career and stuff like that.
JavaScript view, right?
View and stuff like that, right?
Kidding.
But the thing
is, we do at our work.
It's not going to be forced upon them, and they will have that opportunity to be the kids of themselves and make out a path for themselves.
That's the mix you're talking about.
That's the mix I'm talking about. Because for me, I don't have that much of an option. Because I'm like, I could try going into acting or something like that. I don't have that option.
Yeah, that's not a choice.
Right?
Yeah.
But my kids would have that choice.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for them. I don't want them to
because
think about
if they tried acting and failed, they could still have a great life.
Yep, because they would be in the USA, and I had at least tried with my wife to give them that opportunity to try something and fail with as an immigrant or non-immigrant over here. You don't have that option. I don't have that option.
That's true.
Whenever I talk about till July 2024, I'm thinking of a fixed deadline of how much I can work, how much I can save, how much what I can do, and I need to think about if I can go to another college to still lengthen up my period of staying in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first generation coming over to the USA kind of immigrant, this is the story for almost all the people all over the country. All over the world. Any person it could be from Nigeria, could be from India, could be from, let's say, Bangladesh, is going to be exactly same story.
Same thought in their head about what am I doing, why am I doing it every day?
Exactly. Missing the family back home and thinking about their future over here. Most of them, or couple of them, they might go back, but they'll go back at a point where they have enough saved up money to go back and at least try to do something with that saved money.
Yeah.
They're not just going to I'm done with the study. They'll be I already came here, I already pursued this much, I spent this much of my effort over there. Why not try to cinch that one more year of effort and get something out of that?
Yeah. So this is a very different interview than I've done with most people for a couple of reasons. All of the other interviews I've done have been mostly Americans, Europeans in Asia, right? And so this is people, an Asian in America, right? So for the first one I've done with something like this, actually. And so a lot of different things. And so this last question it seems silly, but I'm just going to ask it, because this is the thing, is you had such very different motivations. For all Europeans or Americans to go to Asia, the reason is just cause.
Yeah, this
or
travel.
I like anime, or it doesn't. There's no real reason.
No
they're not
motivation
trying to
and stuff
do
like that.
something.
You're not planning your future.
1 out of 100 has a good reason, But
some they have a job and they moved over there or something.
Yeah, that's some, but mostly it's just exploring. They want to see what's up. They like Asian chicks. That's 99% of.
Yeah, that's true.
But not for you, For you going to Australia was something deeper, more meaningful than that. Even if it was exploration, it was bigger and different than that.
I was still working over there for 5 days. I was still teacher's assistant. I was the 2 days of the weekends that I had a free time in
and then for you to come to America, it was a much even more targeted thing. Was being in America, obviously, but also going to college, right? Also trying to get a job eventually and trying to make a bunch of money here, because we have way too much money here. So it's a good place to make money, So here's why this question makes sense for other people I've interviewed, maybe not for you, but is there anywhere else you'd like to live? Anywhere else you'd like to go or travel to? Or is that question absurd? Does that question make no sense? No, here's the thing though.
Whenever my friend used to ask me, sometimes even my wife, she would ask me, and I would sometimes say jokingly that I went to Australia in my high school, or let's say at the end of high school. I came to USA for my college or bachelor's. I really want to go to Europe for my master's. I really want to go to Europe for my master's. I have a cousin brother in...
That would be a cool trajectory.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Because Europe is vast. Australia is just one country, or let's say continental country in a sense, because
23 million people, it's pretty small. Yeah,
but it's a country or continent. That's a different debate. But okay, so I've been to Australia, I've been to USA, I want to go to Europe. I've never
and you've been to several places in the US, so you have a good grasp on it.
A little bit of at least. And my cousin is in Czech Republic, and he went there for masters. And my other cousin, I think he went to Norway, I guess. That's also another European country. I have a friend in Germany, and so I really want to, if possible, transition myself at least to Europe at least once. That was my plan before. Now, probably what I'll end up having is that just finish my master's over here and go to Europe for maybe a travel or something like that, when I actually have like a legal documents and everything done, so that I can leave USA and come back easily.
Yep.
So Europe might be my travel destination, but Europe is in the bucket list.
Yeah,
like
me too. I've never been. I
really want to go to
Let's
Europe.
Let's go for a Europe trip.
Yeah,
Let's
on
go,
a car.
Let's go take a cool road trip to Europe.
Yep.
All right. How do you say like and subscribe in Hindi? Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe kare. That's it. Like do like and subscribe. Like this is like and subscribe kare. But in Nepali it's like and subscribe. Garnu.
Garnu. What does this mean? Kari garnu.
Kare,
it means I'm speaking Hindi. I'm not speaking English. I promise.
Kare means you are talking to a mask and you are asking like, please do this.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
Kare just basically means please do that.
Yeah.
And Garnu is like a formal and respected way of saying please do something.
Okay.
Like please.
Please.
Yeah.
Mom, please. I know you're subscribed already. Subscribe again. All right. Good stuff, man. Thanks for talking.
No worries. And yeah, no worries is something that I picked while I was in Sydney.
No worries?
Yeah, I always used to say, whenever somebody said thank you, I always used to say welcome, right? But in Sydney, for some reason, everybody said no worries.
Yeah.
Everybody says no.
Yeah.
I have not heard one person, Australian person, say welcome to me when I said thank you.
Yeah.
They all say no worries, and I picked that up. And
no worries is cool. It's chill. It's
4
Australia.
years in the USA, and whenever I say there's so many people, they're like, wow, no worries, I never thought about it. Like, sometimes the people would be like,
cool response.
Yeah, that's a cool response. Like, that's pretty cool. And it just stuck with me in 5 months that I have been using that for the past 5 years,
it's
6
cool.
years.
Don't give it up. Don't give it up.
It's pretty good.
It's cool.
So yeah, whenever even Matt messes me, like, I like, thank you, Sugam, for doing like, no worries.
Yeah,
it just feels like nonchalant.
You hear people talking about how they don't like small talk quite a bit, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a common thing, like fuck small talk. Like I want to talk about something deep. Which,
the weather.
What if you don't want to talk about something deep? You don't know what you're talking about. Like like you do not want to talk about something deep with the guy in the elevator. I promise. He's going to talk about how his dog died and he's thinking of killing himself. You do not want to talk about. Just say hi. That's okay.
The weather looks bad.
But I've been thinking. I don't know if this is true or not, but like. For people in a lot of other countries, there's way less formality for interactions that don't matter. So here's what I mean is like, if you go to buy something at a store, for a lot of people in other countries, they're just there to take your money. That's the only reason they're there. They take your money to make sure you don't steal anything. Yep. But in America, it's like a whole thing. Like, how's your day? Did you find everything okay? Can I help? Oh, I got one of these last week too. Did they have the blueberry one? It's like, and I think when people say I hate small talk, that's what they mean. They mean there's too much just nonsense talking.
And one
that's
thing
like programmed in.
I remember I wrote an essay in one of my boosted class of I had to write an essay about the culture shock of coming to the USA for the international students, something like that, right? And one thing I remember writing is that how much people end up sharing about their personal life while you're waiting in the queue.
Oh, like to you, like turn around, like.
Yeah, like sometimes they just talk like. Yeah, I got like, they were like, that's why I divorced my wife because like this happened, or
like we've known each other for 5 seconds.
Exactly, like, and sometimes like the thing, like not only the queue, I worked in a retail kind of environment, right? I had to like make the small talk in a sense, but I would try to avoid that. I would just try to put the point like, okay, here's the thing, that's the money, there's the tax, and
that's
stuff
why
like
you're
that.
there.
And sometimes they were like, oh yeah, I'm trying to gift this to this person and I already gave them. Like, I don't care. Why would I care? I don't know about your family, like but I can't say that.
No, you can't.
Like,
that
sounds lovely. They should be really like excited about the gift. Oh, Christmas gift! Like I had to do that because I'm working for somebody else.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
in the like, buy this thing, burn it outside. I don't care. You pay the money to me. My boss is going to ask me where the hell that thing went. Right? That's the only thing it matters to me. But what I realized that sometimes, like the moment you reciprocate in a sense to them, and it just feels like they are so lonely or they want to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
they
that's
find
a
like,
big thing.
This person reciprocated that sentence to me. I should speak more, and they end
it's
up
like
talking.
An opportunity.
Yeah.
I feel so lonely. I can connect.
That's
with
what
this guy
it felt.
selling me
Yeah,
my T-shirt.
exactly. It just felt like that. I'm not saying that's But
I
it's
think
just
it's kind of accurate.
sometimes like as I said, like one person, like he just vented out, like ranted about why he divorced his wife, like sometimes. And one person was like how much he hates being in a family trip while the wife and kids are like literally outside the store.
Oh my God.
And he's buying the gifts for them. They come in like, guys, look, I got for you. Like he looked genuinely excited, and he's like literally.
Oh, but
like,
he's like flipped 180 his
he's
mood.
faking it.
He's faking it.
And
yeah.
he
But
told
faking it
me,
well.
But he told me literally 2 seconds ago, and I'm dumbstruck. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what the fuck is going on over here? And
Jeez.
that doesn't happen back home. It's back home is about, they know you because you have been coming to the store so many times.
Sure.
And they ask you a question about, oh, what happened to the dog?
Because they know the dog. Because
they know
you
the
had
dog.
a dog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They live
and they
in
know
next
you,
door.
and they know your family.
Exactly.
And they've been in the same neighborhood,
Exactly.
the same temple, and it's,
they were like,
yeah.
oh, you got your daughter married off. You didn't invite me. Why not?
Yeah.
Like and stuff like that. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
when we talk about like Indian or Nepali or like wedding, and they're like, oh, we invite our whole community. That's what
Yeah.
we meant, because we know somebody so closely. They're like, oh, you didn't invite me.
But let's say that you lived like not in the capital city, and you were just going to Kathmandu for like a job interview. You don't really know anyone. You're just going, and you go to the store to buy a chocolate or something. You're not going to tell that guy about your divorce.
Yeah, and he's
You're
not
gonna
even going to
buy.
ask.
You're gonna buy his chocolate. You buy the chocolate. That's
No,
it.
but-
It's a simple thing.
But the thing is, like, even he's not going to ask you like, how's your day going? Did you
Yeah.
find anything? They were like, that's it.
Yeah,
He'll just scan it
yeah.
and like that's 25 cents or
rupees.
like
Yeah.
30 rupees or something like that, right? And like you pay the money, done.
Yeah.
And if you
yeah.
just keep standing to expect something like,
Like
sorry,
what?
you like
Do you something else? Like
yeah.
what's up?
Did you want something else? Did you want to like ask him about something else? Like,
Yeah.
oh no, I just want.
want to talk.
No, I don't want
man.
to talk.
I don't think they interview her very well. Just kind of worried, you know.
Yep. And sometimes I would feel, because I've been conditioned by my work to like ask that, make the small talk, like, how's the day going and stuff like that, like what you.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's some real value in small talk. I don't think small talk is bad in the right
no.
circumstance. Because here's the thing. Like, for example, at work, is like you know the people you work with, and so you might sometimes talk about some personal things. You might do it, because you talk to them every day, right? Like you become friends, with your coworkers, right? But small talk helps to ease into interactions, right? So at the beginning of the day, I don't say like, hey, Sugar, what's up? My dog died.
Yeah,
I'll be like, how are you? What's up? Yeah, like you want to eat together? Yeah. I'll be like at lunch, like, my dog died. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. But small talk is appropriate for getting into things.
Yeah, and even like you wouldn't actually just put that information out there. If somebody like, if I ask
wouldn't,
you like,
yeah.
it would be like, so how's your weekend or stuff like that? You would say, oh, not as good as others, and I would probably ask you like, why?
Yeah.
What happened? And then you would go into, oh, my dog died or stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not going
oh.
to put it in the general Slack
Yeah,
chat.
exactly, right? So something like that. So whenever somebody like, oversaid things, and that just felt like they just want to talk to somebody, like they just want to vent out the things that they're holding on for, and they just keep on talking to you while the whole store is empty. Nobody else is there, because if somebody else is there, they're not going to talk to you. It's usually like when they're alone.
Because it's like a personal thing.
Exactly,
to
right?
like, yeah.
And you are trying to do your thing, you are just packing up the bag and stuff like that, and they're telling you all these things, and like...
There is another part of it, which is, I think part of it is the fact that there are so many people here for whatever reason. I think just we don't have close families and close communities, and people move too much and stuff like that. But so there's so many lonely people here. It's like it's a huge thing. Probably in other countries there's lonely people too, but here there's like a ton of lonely people, And so, I get, it's not just you, I get that all the time as well. Like, the big thing is in the gym, in the locker room, in the sauna. Like, I've heard so many guys talk about, they're like thinking of killing themselves and stuff. I'm
wow.
like, bro, like, I'm trying to work out. Like, what, like, and it's hard. Like, what do you do when someone tells you that and you've never seen this guy before,
Yeah, you're never like, okay, please don't die.
Yeah, like, I really don't. But it's a real common thing. But I think it's especially when you work retail or a restaurant, you're a captive audience. You have to stay there to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
Like,
just
I had to
leave.
like fake it out, be like, oh wow, okay. And at the point, like I just started being like, That's what I used to do, and they would just keep on. I'm like, man, take
Like
the clue.
your body language is saying, go away.
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
what your
like,
body
I'm
language
just
is
going
saying.
like, man, just go away.
But they're just so happy.
that I'm responding with just
Oh, I got a he's my friend.
Yes.
That's the circuit in their brain.
Yep, and that was one of my point of like a circle, like and the essay kind of thing. Like I wrote about like people sometimes even they have just met for like couple of seconds, couple of minutes, they end up saying so many things, and that is way different of like culture shock kind of thing coming from a different closeted community in a sense, like where you don't say about if you have a problem, hide it out, be a man kind of thing, like you know, like which is even over here.
So it's more than just the community. It's just like overall you're not going to complain as much.
Yeah, in a sense.
You're not going to share that stuff. The important thing is do the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah, or like you're going to say to that people the person who actually helped you break down that wall. Somebody who is like really close to you, like
their girlfriend or something.
Yeah,
like
my
that,
girlfriend,
like,
my wife, like
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I have over the years I have told her so many things that I'm never going to like you know speak in front of camera or even like talk to you or like even talk to my sister about. There are so many things that my family doesn't know about and stuff like that, right? I have told her over the years, like there was a point like I think a couple of years back. We like right now we have been like together for 10 years, right? So that let's say like we have at least been together for at least around like 6 or 7 years. At that point, she got to know about one of my like you know secret or that I have never shared about her
because it's very personal.
Very personal, all right.
And if you only knew her for 4 years, you don't quite feel ready.
So,
maybe after 6 years.
Even that was like something because my sister hinted at.
Oh.
They were like, oh, didn't you know about my brother? Like this thing happened to him or something like that.
You want to tell us about it? We were done with the interview, so maybe the camera's off. Maybe it is. Maybe the mic is off. Who knows? Who knows?
So like my sister hinted at to my wife, and she was like, when were you going to tell me about this? I'm like, hopefully never.
Oh,
like you know, because this is the thing that I never wanted.
Well, can I also ask, because I think I know the answer for almost everyone is yes. So I'll just say, right? But like, you know, this is a way one of my bosses put it one time. I was an RA in college. Like I worked in a dormitory, you know, this job, right? And so my boss's job was to manage the RAs, but we're also all students. So it's kind of and we live in that place. So it's really a professional and personal mix, you know, you know. So she's got to be like kind of you know, and so she'd talk about this is like, especially your interactions with the residents, because you're working there, but you're living there as well. How do you deal with that? And it's like, there are levels of things you share with people, right? And there's like plenty of things that are real important in your life. You don't talk to other people about them. You talk to them about it with some people, and then other things, you know, there's levels, right? But there's definitely things with the middle you'll never share with anyone. I mean, unless it would be wild if you did. Like it would be like, what the fuck? What happened? You know, like you know, you go do some crazy drug or something, and like I just said it. I don't know.
Like, one time I was a drug dealer or something like that. I used to sell like something like that.
Yeah. You wouldn't like talk about this. You know,
it's something like that. You wouldn't even tell your your significant other, your partner about this. Because they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know.
and it's the kind of thing that like if they found out, like they wouldn't like break up with you, but it's just like you don't wanna like,
exactly. Like,
keep that to yourself.
Yeah,
like,
you're just trying to like avoid that, like put it behind you in a sense, right?
Yeah. Well, and also like things that just like you don't need to, you know, like do you like you know if I was dating a girl, I don't need to share all the details about all my past girlfriends with her. Like what? Why would
does
you?
it matter?
That'd be so weird. Like you don't need to do that. You know.
The only point I think like about the girlfriend thing is like if she found out like you are still in contact with somebody like you know your ex or something.
No, of course.
And at that point, she would like, why are you still in contact with somebody like that? The point I would understand in a sense, I guess.
No, I'm not. No, of course.
Something like that.
There's some things you should say, right?
Yeah.
Have you had a girlfriend before? Like no,
no, and like
you're the first. You're lying now. Yeah. But I guess the real point is like you know you have someone intimate that you can if you need to talk to someone, you have someone to talk to. You don't need to talk to the guy selling you a bagel.
Yep, exactly. That's the thing. But the problem arises, let's say that what if all your life you have been telling everything to your wife, and now the wife is the thing that you want to talk to about, and you don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
And you want to tell that to at least somebody.
Yeah.
So
you have that thing in your heart that you got to get out.
And the thing is that I think what happens is like there's a thing that they don't want to talk to anybody. Like they don't actually have anybody to talk to, right? There's the one possibility. They at least have a friend. Let's say that you are my friend. I want to talk about my wife to you, but you're also a really close friend with my wife. If I tell you about her,
you like, not this conversation,
right? We won't have any. So I think the best scenario is that you want to vent out, you want to vent out to that stranger who is not ever going to do anything about it.
You're right.
Or
You're right.
he's never even going to care about, because you know that he's not going to care about.
And you're probably never going to see him again.
And you know that you just told him everything that you wanted to say, you vented out,
Yeah.
and you're done with it.
So in some way, a stranger is the perfect person.
Exactly. That's what I think about. Like, but I still feel like that the lonely thing is like the most main reason, because people just start ranting out.
I agree.
Because I don't think people become too clever and so thoughtful about emotional things. They're not going to like, oh, stranger, let me tell you about my story. Like, you know, they're not doing that. They're just going like, oh, wow, you responded to my, like, you know, sentence thing. Let me tell you about my life story, stuff like that. So, that has happened. I have also like heard about people, those were like extreme examples of like, you know, people hating their family and like, I'm like not liking going with the trip and stuff like that. But people just go into, oh, you have no clue. I used to drive this thing, and at that one point this happened, and like they just go on like a random story, like a nugget of like their life while you're on a queue, and I'm just like, I don't care. I just need to buy this like a milk and a cereal.
Here's the thing. If people share a lot of stories, but their stories are so fucking boring and they're just bad at talking and just uninteresting people, because if someone was in line and they're really engaging, and blah, 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 I go, wow, you know, hey, tell me the story, you know, like, don't bore me.
That's the thing, like, you know, there's a thing about storytellers thing, like, you know, you could be saying really, really boring, like nobody wants to hear kind of story, but we could be really engaging. You could be like taking the breaks. You could be like, you have no idea what happened next kind of thing, like, you know, like what happened next, like, you know, stuff like that. But if you're just like ranting out, just saying that you have no idea, like what I did on like my 90s and stuff, it's like,
you know the Black Mirror episode with the voting on people and interactions? There should be a version of that. This is what I want for when China takes over the world and we have
social credit system.
We have social credit system for everyone, right? We got to get that, but it's specifically for people's boring stories. So and we have education, so they have to go to like a special school to learn to be a better storyteller. If they get like 5 downvotes on their stories, you know, so you can keep talking, but you got to go to school first.
If you get like enough points, like you need to take a class about how to at least tell the story.
A re-education class to be more interesting.
I think like there was a stand-up, not exactly the same thread, but like, you know, some similar vein kind of thing, where about it was like a dating site thing, like you meet a guy or a girl. You should at least have like a rating system.
Oh, 100%.
Like 4
100%.
stars, really amazing, but kind of clingy at the end.
Yeah.
Like, you know, amazing personality, but like it's just sharing too much of his story by the end of it. Like 2 stars, like stuff like that. And I have never had to use a dating site, as I said before. But it just, I found like, that actually sounds really interesting.
I would totally want to use that more.
Because
right?
like whenever you go to somebody's profile, you see like, 3.9 star. What happened here? Let's take a look at this.
Hey, we do that for everything else, for businesses and everything.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, that's not as devious as like a social credit score, because you don't have to use the dating app, you know, but if you're using it, you know.
Yeah, you at least get like a better.
It could be optional. What about optional reviews? But then you'd be very suspicious of someone if they didn't turn on the reviews.
Exactly.
You know? Why did you turn on your reviews?
Yeah, like is it because like you are worried everybody will just give you 1 star? Like, you know, something like that?
You must be a 1-star person. You don't turn on the reviews. Come on, people would rate you higher.
Yeah. Because if you were 5 stars, you wouldn't turn it off because you would boast it about it. You're like, 5-star guy, 5-star guy.
Let's make an app. Let's make an app. Let's make a new dating app.
Let's make a dating app.
Cool. Let's do it. Instead of working tomorrow. Monday. Yeah. All right. Good to talk, man. I'm finally turning it off. All right. Now we can talk about the secret.